Very natural.
Yeah. All right, folks. I've got 5 p.m. on the dot, Bali time for Tuesday night. The filter. We start on time around here. Thanks for coming, guys. We've got a full house and a very good show, action-packed. Today's show is called Bitcoin Unlimited. What could be better than unlimited, right? I think this is the answer we've all been waiting for, but we'll see. Maybe there will be some dissenting opinions in the House. I certainly hope so. We're going to talk about a little bit of local news. Of course, we've got local things going on around here, being that we're building a Bitcoin economy in Ubud here in Bali. So I'll cover some of those things. We're going to go over the price. Of course, we always go over the price. I don't know if you guys know this, but when the price goes up, actually more people come to this meeting. It's like directly proportional. So it really has nothing to do with the quality of the show at all. It's all about the price. So that's why we talk about it every week. We are going to do a Bitcoin health check. And this is something you can do at home, folks. If you want to do a Bitcoin health check, I'm going to show you how to do that. Anybody can do it. You just have to know the ins and the outs, so to speak. And like every week, we're going to go around the world. This week, we're going to stop in the United States. We've got USA on the list. Russia is there. Germany. And also, we're going to kind of do a broad, all of Europe kind of fits into this category. We're going to talk about European banks. European banks are in the doldrums. It's very exciting. For some reason, I get excited when banks have problems. It's like kind of some sort of weird psychological condition I have. Also, we're going to go through the items that are posted in the Facebook group by the users. Did you guys know that SHA-256 might be broken? Everybody write that down, SHA-256. I'm sure you guys are all, familiar with SHA-256. It's not nerdy at all.
How old is this news?
SHA-256. How old is the news? The NSA released some information about SHA-256.
Then?
Recently.
Yeah, they don't claim it's already done.
Well, we're going to talk about it. Okay, we're going to have an update on the war on cash. Is everybody in here familiar with the war on cash? Cash is persona non grata in the world of global finance. It's for criminals and money launderers, and it's just plain dirty, like physically dirty. There's germs on cash, and we need to do away with it as soon as possible. Or not. I tend to like cash, but smart people can disagree on that. And then we're going to talk about Bitcoin Unlimited. Has anybody taken a look at this Bitcoin Unlimited thing? What could be better than unlimited? Nothing. Welcome. Pull up a chair. Hey, JP.
Hey.
All right, the gang's all here. We can really get started now.
I get the chair. No more.
Yes, pull in a chair. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and kick things off here. I'm gonna share my screen so that the people at home can see exactly what we're seeing. No comments on the graphics this week. I thought this was very Ubud graphic. I thought we might get a new demographic in the room. Maybe some spiritual people, maybe some enlightened people.
It worked.
People searching for enlightenment through Bitcoin might show up here.
It works.
We're
here.
Oh, you're here. You guys ready to be enlightened? All right. That's too much pressure. Okay. Let's see. I'm kind of backwards here, so bear with me. All right. So we are coming to you live from Hubud in downtown Ubud, Bali, right across the street from the monkey forest. These guys have generously provided with a air-conditioned room for the last 2 years for our Bitcoin meeting. So we really appreciate the fact that they make this meeting possible. And of course, if you ever find yourself in Bali, we hope you'll come join us in person and join the club, get involved. That happens at Hubud, and you can learn more at hubud.org. We also have this hashtag going. I've been beating the drum for this hashtag Bitcoins in Bali, but the only one that ever really uses it is me. So you can still get in on the ground floor on hashtag Bitcoins in Bali. But
pay you a fee?
Not yet. First one's free. But the idea is that if you tag something with Bitcoins in Bali, we will see it, find it. We can have part of our conversation on Twitter. if you use this hashtag. And if you want to find out what's going on in the scene, you can check that hashtag yourself. So I'm just going to tweet something out with that hashtag, basically let the world know that we're live and online. If you guys are on Twitter and care to retweet that, people tell me like we could get this like I don't know, critical mass where more people are watching. So do that if you're so inclined. We also do this thing on Facebook. We've got the Facebook group, groups/Bitcoins in Bali. Not to be mistaken with the page. There's another thing on there called Bitcoins in Bali, but this is the group. This is where we congregate. There's 800 people in this group. Some of them are actually real people, and most of the real people actually show up in person. But there's a good scene going on here on Facebook, and if you find something online that has to do with Bitcoins or Bali or better yet both, then it would be great if you could post it, and then we can talk about it when we get together in person. So that's how the Facebook group works. And last but not least, I don't mention this a lot, but we put all of these meetings up on YouTube, on the YouTube channel. So if you miss one, you can catch the replay on the YouTube channel. And we've only got about 23 subscribers here. So hopefully we can get some more people interested in the Bitcoin or the YouTube channel, and that's why I'm mentioning it. So check that out. All right, let's dive right into local news. We had a meeting not too long ago with Victor Tron, where we talked about Ethereum, and we had technical difficulties, and the whole thing was only for the benefit of the people that we had in the room. So Victor was kind enough to get together with me again, and we recorded a very nice interview yesterday morning, and I think it came out really well. And it's up online at the following link. You can find these links on the show notes. If you just go to bitcoinsinbali.org/podcast, you can find that. And that talk is about an hour long, and it was a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoy that. Check it out. Also in local news, this past Saturday, we had Bitcoin 101. It's like I don't know, we've done this thing like maybe 30 or 40 times now, but yesterday we had a record, I'm sorry, this past time, we had a record crowd. We had about 25 people in this room. There might be, I think there's about 25 people in the room right now. So you can kind of get a feel for the pandemonium. I see some people were here for Bitcoin 101. Maybe you guys didn't realize what turmoil we had during that time. But we are a victim of our own success around here, which I'm perfectly happy to deal with that ambiguity. But I think next time around we're going to limit the number of people to strictly the registrants. I think it'll go a little bit more smoothly. And the next one you see here is on March 5th, and if you just use the now link, you can get in and join us for the next one around.
Do you send the stuff? Because I registered there. I haven't received anything.
Yes, you will.
Oh,
I haven't
okay.
sent the follow-up email yet, but you will receive something from me shortly on that. All right. Okay, and I just thought I'd bring this up. The most popular thing amongst the people at Bitcoin 101, I think, was the fact that people can buy Pulsa. People keep coming to me over and over again and saying, like, you know, it's such a hassle to buy Pulsa. I run out of Pulsa in the middle of the night. What to do? How can we solve this problem? Bitcoin to the rescue. If you go to this Toko Bitcoin website, you can buy Pulsa, you can buy data for your phone, you can buy electricity for your house, and all from the comfort of.
This?
This is part of Oscar's undertaking.
But they use BitBuyer.
They do. Yeah, and BitBuyer is also Oscar. It's
Oh.
part of the Oscar empire. He seems to be taking over.
Who is us?
All Bitcoin transactions go through through Oscar. Anyway, check it out, tokobitcoin.com. Buy some Pulsa there, and honestly, it's really slick. Some people, that's the only thing they use Bitcoin for, and it's worth it just for that. Hello, Kamaya. Thank you for coming. We were talking about all the boring stuff, waiting for you to arrive. So now we're going to get right into the interesting stuff. The other thing that was a little bit different about Bitcoin 101 this time around is we introduced this Airbits wallet. It is in times past we were using the blockchain.info wallet, and we have now officially switched to this Airbits wallet. If you haven't checked it out. It's really cool. I hope you'll take a look at it. It's they do a lot of interesting things to keep your information secure. They don't store any user data, and they also have an integrated directory which has a bunch of the local area businesses already listed. So check out Airbits if you get a chance. That's the one that that we're going to be supporting as part of the community going forward. So check it out. All right. Did anybody see Daniel Vilchinsky's very nice post? This is a friend of the show, someone who is coming on a regular basis, Bitcoin developer. Of course, we love it when Bitcoin people show up here in Bali. We'd love for Bali to be like the Bitcoin Mecca, you know, for people to come here and do their Bitcoin projects and participate in what we've got going on here. And this guy, Daniel, was a part of the scene while he was here for a few months, and he was nice enough to do a little write-up. And I don't know who that guy is, but he makes a point of thanking myself and Christine Chang, who put on the Bitcoin Film Festival and there's a picture of Christine. Does anybody remember her? She has since moved on to her next adventure. You won't be seeing Christine around here too much anymore, but I'm sure she'll come back. She's going to take the Bitcoin message to other places around the world. I think she wants to go to Europe and maybe see what's going on in Berlin. And right now, I think she's in Vietnam to see what they know about Bitcoin. But anyway, this is a really nice write-up. Really appreciate Daniel giving us a shout-out. He also says some nice things about Oscar and the Indonesian Bitcoin exchange. Really cool thing posted in the group. All right, guys. As we do every Tuesday, we talk about the price, and because we're in Indonesia, the largest Bitcoin exchange in Indonesia is just bitcoin.co.id. In Indonesian rupiah, one Bitcoin is worth over 5 million Indonesian rupiah, right? But normally, most people are used to talking about Bitcoin in terms of the dollar price, and we're sitting at about $373 for one Bitcoin. That's largely unchanged from last week. But if we consult the Bitcoin time machine, this is everybody's favorite, the Bitcoin time machine. This is the Bitcoin price over the course of the last week. We had a little bump in the middle of the week, and then now we're back down to where we started from.
Last year?
This is the last week, but you want to see the last year?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's much more interesting.
Isn't that nice? It is interesting. Yes. Last year at this time it was in the twos.
The last year. This looks like a ski jump from the Olympics right
Pretty
here.
good.
That's very steep there. Yeah, I don't know what the Bitcoin price is going to do. I think there's a lot of turmoil in the world right now, and in years past there was this is why I have this perverted appreciation for things going wrong in the world. Like when banks are failing, I'm like, yeah, I like turn on multiple television sets and get excited. But recently, because Bitcoin has had a few problems lately, there's a little bit of ambiguity around what will happen to Bitcoin. This is why we get together every week, by the way, to try and sort it out together. But I think that's what's keeping the Bitcoin price low. And we've seen much bigger moves in some other technologies, Ethereum, for example, because I think the fate of Bitcoin is question mark. And hopefully we can get those things resolved and have a little bit more correlation between all of the bad news in the world and a positive correlation with the Bitcoin price. But we're just not seeing that just yet. All right. Bitcoin price is going up and down and up and down and up and down. Over last summer, these numbers got down to under 1%, which starts to make it look like a real money, like a real currency. But when we got volatility over 4%, that means that Bitcoin today, 30 days from now, could be worth almost 5% different. And it's hard to run a business, hard to see Bitcoin as a store of value or a viable money when the value goes up and down and up and down and up and down. So that's why we keep an eye on this volatility price. For the last 30 days, Bitcoin price fluctuates plus or minus 4.8%. That ain't cool. I like it when it's 4.8% more, but when it's 4.8% less, that's when it's kind of a bummer. Okay, Bitcoin health check. We do this every week, but I don't know if I ever like kind of framed it in this way. But anybody can be the Bitcoin doctor and take a look at what's going on with Bitcoin, and you can decide for yourself what's going on. You know, there are other monies around the world, dollars, for example, euros, yen, where you don't have this information at your fingertips to see what's going on with Bitcoin. But with Bitcoin, you know, we have an up to the minute update on exactly what's going on with Bitcoin. I'm just going to refresh this page, and here now we got the latest information. We know exactly how many blocks are in the blockchain. You hear us talk about the blockchain, and it's kind of this nebulous thing, but you can know exactly how many blocks there are at any point in time by just taking a look at the Bitcoin network. Incidentally, we're at about 397,000 blocks. And when we get to 420,000 blocks, the inflation rate for Bitcoin is going to be cut in half. That's going to happen this year, right? So, you know, much more so than other currencies, you can see exactly what's going on. You can see exactly how much all Bitcoin's worth down to the penny. All Bitcoins on planet Earth today are worth over $5 billion, right? And that's pretty impressive considering that every 10 minutes, about $9,000 worth of new Bitcoin comes into existence. That's what this figure is right here. Every 10 minutes, 25 new Bitcoins come into existence. That's the Bitcoin inflation rate. And even though that happens, you know, we still have a stable global price for Bitcoin over time. Okay, let's see, what else can we take a look at? I just mentioned that Bitcoin is going to have, when we reach 420,000 blocks, what you're looking at right here is a Bitcoin clock, right? The second hand is basically every 24 hours, 144 blocks are created. So this thing turns around approximately every 24 hours, you know, and counts the blocks that are created. This guy right here, this minute hand, determines how often the difficulty is adjusted, because you've got Bitcoin consists of a bunch of computers around the world that are all running the Bitcoin software, and when more computers are running, then the difficulty of the network, the difficulty of the problem that Bitcoin solves changes, so that basically so that the network can cooperate together. And then we've got this big fat hour hand, which basically hits midnight every 4 years, and this is when the inflation rate will be cut in half. And this should drive the price of Bitcoin up. This is what happened last time around, and it's good to keep your eye on the clock, because as we approach midnight, it's going to get a little squirrely. It's going to get interesting to watch. So keep your finger on the pulse. Of course, unlike other currencies around the world, Bitcoin has a very steady inflation rate, right? It's just going in a straight line, and it's going to go in a straight line for the next 140 years, right? So it's way more predictable. In this sense, it's way less volatile than other currencies around the world. We talked about volatility in terms of price, but what about volatility in terms of supply? Over the course of its lifetime, Bitcoin is incredibly predictable. Right, so someday it's going to be a very good and steady measure for everything else that we like to look at in the real world. All right, this is a really crazy graph here. This is the difficulty, right? I mentioned this a little bit earlier. Every 2 weeks, remember here, this minute hand happens. Takes a cycle every 2 weeks, and the difficulty is readjusted depending on how many people are participating. Look at what has happened in the, you know, since the latter part of 2015. This is the entire lifetime of Bitcoin, and in the course of the last maybe 6 weeks, we've had an exponential jump in the hashing power of the Bitcoin network. I mean, this is incredible. I mean, Bitcoin represents a supercomputer that is more powerful than the top 500 supercomputers combined. Right, and supercomputers are measured in terms of I don't know, petaflops per second or something. You know, it's a piece of the vocabulary that only nerds have command over. But you know, you don't have to understand that jargon. You just have to take a look at the graph and see that like the Bitcoin network has become incredibly more powerful over just the last short period of time.
Gary, does that indicate that there are more miners getting involved or less?
Well, it could be more people participating, or there could be some sort of exponential jump in the technology. Somebody could have invented some sort of new chip that performs those calculations way more quickly than in the past. And well, we don't quite know.
I think
But
the
it-
most likely explanation is that the price jumped from 250 to 400 and something about 2-3 months ago. I don't know exactly when. And for miners, it takes maybe a number of weeks to get more hardware online to increase their investment in an increasingly valuable currency that they're buying. So probably there's a time lag of about 3-4 weeks between when the currency became more viable and when the difficulty started going up exponentially. Also, I think that in the last couple of months, Bitfury and a number of other ASIC producers have come up with significantly better mining hardware in the production cycle throughout the year. So that there are specific times when they release new hardware, more powerful hardware to miners, which then takes a while to go online. So probably that explains why the difficulty jumped so much, specifically at this time of the year right now.
Interesting. I did not know that. Thanks for that.
Makes sense.
Now, what happens when the price goes back down to 200 and they've got to still pay the bills on all that new hardware they bought?
The wheel of line, I guess.
Maybe they start mining Dogecoin or something.
But it's interesting that even if the price went down significantly in 2014, the hashing power never went down. Simply the increasing efficiency of the new hardware simply kept up the difficulty, probably reducing the electricity cost per hash that is being calculated. And so we had a flat line even throughout the bear market in 2014.
Yes. And I apologize for people if we've lost you, because this is a little bit of a nerdy piece of esoteric data, but just suffice it to say that the more computing power that is participating in the Bitcoin network, the more unimpeachable the Bitcoin is, right? And Bitcoin is far and away the most secure ledger or database on planet Earth, right? And it's kept secure by the incredible amount of computing power that collaborates to keep it that way. So that's why we talk about it. All right, last but not least, the transaction volume is reaching record levels. This is a good thing for Bitcoin and a bad thing for Bitcoin. It's kind of like we're a victim of our own success. We are reaching the levels, you know, these spikes here. Sorry, guys, I'm a little bit backwards. Come on, mouse. Well, you can, there we go. So over here, these two spikes represented stress tests or people flooding the network with transactions to see exactly what would happen. And this is more like organic real Bitcoin ledger usage. And we're approaching the point that we used to only dream of in terms of transaction volume. And this is why Bitcoin is having its existential crisis. It's reaching its max throughput. It can only handle about 3 transactions per second. If we go back to our numbers here, you can see that we're doing about 9,782 transactions per hour. That works out to about 2.7 transactions per second. And that's about the limit, folks. And that's why there's so much debate going on about the fate of Bitcoin itself. We're a victim of our own popularity here, and we've got to sort this stuff out soon.
That last week is just all of us on top of Bitcoin.
Yes, this is the peak right here, 101 on Saturday morning, all buying Pulsa. So what happens when we reach peak transaction volume? There are real world consequences, and is Peter here? He was trying to buy Pulsa, and you know, when you buy Pulsa, it shows you a price, and that price is good for a period of time. And what happens if your Bitcoin transaction does not clear in that period of time? Well, it generates an email to the support. I don't know if he was using Toko Bitcoin.
No, I also used to Bitcoin and they were off. That's why I'm very disappointed, but I keep shut.
Well, I've never had.
I get it because they pay a zero confirmation. So you see the transaction in the blockchain.
Uh-huh.
You see it? Yeah, you see it if you pay normal fee. Only
Yes.
the confirmation takes longer, you know?
Right.
So it was not a problem. But
Okay.
they reimbursed everything. So it's okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, I really believe that we're going to get through these problems, but this you know, it really impeaches the perceived usability of Bitcoin. And you know, who wants to be exchanging messages with support after you spent $3 on Pulsar? But I don't want to turn you guys off. I mean, I just want to make you aware that you know, we're blazing a trail here, guys. We are early adopters. We're trying to make things happen, but it's not always smooth sailing. But you know, I think we need to roll with the punches a little bit, and it's nice of Peter to share this and for us to kind of consider it. And it is a real world ramification of Bitcoin's popularity. Sometimes the transactions are so high that it takes a long time for transactions to clear, and it results in stuff like this. So it just goes to show that we need to solve these problems.
No, but so if you do a payment and it doesn't happen within that 15-minute window, and it sends an email, do they kind of follow up till that it eventually goes through, or does it bounce?
Well, no. It will eventually go through.
Okay.
I mean, it will get
Your
picked
Pulsar
up.
eventually.
It will get picked up eventually. And I've had transactions clear, you know, even a day later,
Wow.
but I've never had one like just never show up.
Yeah.
But
That doesn't work if you're running out of power to a pulsar. So-
right.
When you say clear, you mean receive a sufficient number of confirmations?
Yes.
Or simply
Yes.
the accepted button?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes the mempool, which is the backlog of transactions, gets so large that it doesn't make it into the block, the current block, or the subsequent block, or even the subsequent block, and that's when you're looking at your phone and you're saying, what happened to my transaction? And then, you know, it eventually shows up and you're like, well, it works eventually, but got a little bit of well.
And then what about the price of it then? Because, you know, if it's going to be processed.
Well,
You know,
that's
definitely.
why these Pulsa dealers give you a time limit on the price tag that they show you, because the price does go up and down. So they secure that price for a period of time, but well, Bitcoin price can fluctuate quite a bit.
Yeah, so then if it's
15
after
minutes.
that time frame, then it's whatever happens with the price.
Right. Well, and that's why it generates a user's email to support. Right? Because
Normally they should reimburse the Bitcoins back to the sending address. And the good thing about Bitcoin is that every time we have an issue like this, you just show the transaction and nobody can tell you, no, you didn't send us the money. What happens with banks? If you have a problem with payment problem with the bank, then go explain to them how you sent and all this stuff, and they cannot track it. Here is very easy.
yeah, it really highlights one of the cool things about Bitcoin. You've got this unimpeachable ledger that both you and the merchant can look at and say, well, there's only one version of reality between us. Here it is, and well, you don't have to fight about it. Right.
That was a local Bitcoin problem, not Bitcoin. I had the same problem with them.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
don't want to go into details, but it happens with every site, you know?
Yes. Yep.
So
And-
just to finish off there, the point is, if it's a price that you're okay with, then you can let it go. But if it's not a price that you want to accept, you can ask for a reimbursement or something like that.
Well, there is no reimbursement with Bitcoin, and well, you can appeal to the other party to send it back, but you cannot reverse a transaction. So this is a feature. This is a good thing, not a bad thing. It actually takes the dispute resolution out of band, out of the transaction itself, and you have to deal with you know, in a different context than the Bitcoin protocol. But you know, a lot of the reason that Visa MasterCard needs to charge you 3% is because it has reversibility, which involves Visa MasterCard in all of the fraud prevention, all of the dispute resolution. That requires people and contracts and investigators, and all of that is extremely expensive. And that's why Visa MasterCard is so expensive that a couple billion people can't afford to have an account with them, right?
But if I may, I would like to bring up another point which is part of the same issue which we are discussing now, which has been discussed in the Open Bazaar Slack recently, if anybody here follows that Slack, which is that there's an asymmetry between the sender and the receiver in this type of transaction, in the type of utility risk that they must make when they make this type of purchase. So, for example, I have a window of 30 minutes, for example, for the transaction to get confirmed in the block, and the person who's selling me Pulsar says if it comes within this 30 minutes, I will accept it no matter what the price of Bitcoin after 30 minutes. If it comes after, I'm not going to guarantee that anymore. So imagine a transaction clears 3 hours later, for example. The price goes up 10%, and the Pulsar provider says, well, I'm glad you give me that money. I get 10% more now, and you will not get a refund, or challenge me to get a refund. But if the price is 10% less, you can simply refund you the money and say, try again. So the price arbitrage is always in favor of the receiver in this type of transactions. The same thing is discussed on Open Bazaar. So the
Open Bazaar is an online marketplace that uses Bitcoin.
that should go online in about 30 days time, 40 days time, if the predictions are correct. So there are buyers and sellers. The buyer sends a certain amount of Bitcoin in escrow to purchase an item through a moderator. The vendor, before he ships the item out, can say that the price went down 10%, and arbitrarily could say, well, I'm sorry, I don't have that item in stock anymore, so I send you your money back. But if the price goes up 10%, he eats up the increase in price. So there's an asymmetry between buyers and sellers from that point of view. That is something that the Open Bazaar people are trying to resolve at this moment.
Do they have a proposed solution for that? That sounds like a systemic problem.
That does.
Very systemic.
Well, and that's why we talk about the volatility in the price so much, because it reduces the utility of Bitcoin as money because of the circumstances that we're just describing. Now, I don't think I mentioned it this week, but I often mention that it's undeniable that Bitcoin's volatility is headed in one direction, and that is lower. Over time, Bitcoin becomes less and less volatile. And once it represents more and more real things out in the world, once it becomes more ubiquitous, the volatility should become incredibly predictable and manageable, and even better than other world currencies at some point. But we're not there yet.
At the same time, if Bitcoin is to fulfill its mission, in a sense, to become what it's supposed to become, or probably we hope it will become, and if it were to increase in price 50-fold over the next 5 years, that would
You mean when it does that?
A lot of volatility.
Yes, when.
That by definition means a lot of volatility for the years to come. If it goes up 50-fold in price, in value over the next 3 years. So I don't think that Bitcoin will ever stabilize at $377. As Satoshi Nakamoto said originally, it will either go to the stars or it will go to zero eventually. And this mid-range price is not sustainable. And whether it goes to zero or it goes to the stars, there's going to be a very volatile path in between these two directions we could take.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very good point.
If it goes to the stars, it becomes like gold, a store of value.
Why does it have to go one way or the other?
A number of people say that Bitcoin will either succeed or fail, and will certainly not be in exactly the same position where it is in 10 years' time. If it is, people will lose interest. If it is not and it's successful, it will have to be extremely more expensive than it is right now to purchase a Bitcoin. Due to the fact that if a billion people use it, you cannot have a 1 billion people economy, or you have a $6 billion market cap. So it will either become very successful, or it will fail entirely. If it will fail entirely, maybe only future hipsters will buy Bitcoins just for the sake of trading.
So are you saying that it would have to eat all commerce? It would have to be the only currency in the whole world?
No, not really. I don't think it will ever happen personally that it will become the only currency in the whole world. But what I'm saying is not very controversial. It's something that has been discussed from the very early days and that people still believe to be fundamentally true, which is that if you want to have you cannot have a middle ground success path for Bitcoin. So it will either become a very established online currency, which it is not yet right now, or it will be entirely forgotten and replaced by something else. And in either of these two scenarios, the price will be either 0 or 50,000 or something like that.
Right.
It's really clear cut to me.
Very high, but not all encompassing.
Sorry?
Right. Yeah. If it succeeds in replacing some even smallish segment of the world's commerce, like say online commerce or something, then it will necessarily have to be much more valuable than it is today in order to service that economy. It's worth noting that Bitcoin, it's worth about $5 billion market cap. That's tiny. I mean, I think HSBC keeps a slush fund of $5 billion to pay their fines with. You know, you couldn't support the money laundering business for the Mexican drug cartels on $5 billion US dollars. So, you know, yeah, it's going to go north or it's going to go to zero. All right, I'm going to skip a few of these tabs, guys. I hope you don't mind. For the sake of time, this is something that I just posted just prior to us getting together. Has anyone had a chance to look at this yet? When was it? February 8th. You asked me when it was posted. Just within the last day or two. NSA switches to quantum-resistant cryptography. I don't know anything about these other cryptographic methods that they're describing, but what caught my eye here was this list. This is the NSA policy. It says the NSA remarked that AES 256 SHA-384 algorithms are, wait, I'm sorry. According to the NSA, the following are not safe to use, and in the list is SHA-256. This is the algorithm that is used to secure a lot of the internet. I believe online banking is secured using SHA-256 cryptography, and Bitcoin is secure using SHA-256 cryptography. And I've got this quote down here. Quantum computers will use qubits that behave in surprising ways, efficiently performing selected mathematical algorithms exponentially faster than a classical computer. The NSA went on to say a sufficiently large quantum computer, if built, would be capable of undermining all widely deployed public key algorithms used for key establishment and digital signatures, meaning that you just broke Bitcoin or you broke online banking. And well, I don't think this computer exists that we know of, although maybe the NSA has this computer, but they're basically coming out publicly and making a policy statement that they're not going to use these forms of cryptography anymore. They're going to use these new ones, this AES 256 and SHA-384. This could be one of the reasons why Bitcoin goes to zero.
I'm not very informed on this, but if I remember reading on Reddit, as most people do, that in 2013 there was a change in the way in which the transactions are signed to prevent quantum computers from possibly in the future breaking Bitcoin or breaking the encryption of the system to completely destroy the network itself. But and at the same time, this improvement that was made only applies to all Bitcoins which belong to addresses whose transaction that deposited Bitcoin were signed after the modification. So all the Bitcoin that has been sitting there on an address before the same address since before 2013 could be vulnerable. Could be vulnerable to that. And somebody pointed out intelligently that the first person that comes out with a quantum computer that can beat the pre-2013 encryption as a $1 million, 1 million Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto stashed coins, readily available to him whenever if only manages to break this encryption.
So all we have to do is monitor Satoshi's Bitcoins. When they move, then we sell.
Exactly the point. That we know that when that million Bitcoins moves, that encryption will have been broken.
Or Satoshi ran out of dough. Maybe he's like a little short. He's like, I think I'm going to cash in my chips.
So can they just update the encryption, whether they're using SHA or AES or whatever? Can they just shift that?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I worked on some teams.
Yeah.
I worked on some teams where they were using one SHA 128.
Hard fork, use a different.
Through hard fork, they can change everything.
So,
right, but does that compromise
the software updates, right?
Well, it's easy to update software. It's a matter of the ecosystem absorbing such a change. I mean, does it make vulnerable all the like the scenario that you described, all Bitcoins that were deposited before a certain date that are subject to this bug? Would it require everyone to move to a new address that uses the new system? I don't know. It would be a bumpy ride, I think. But
But it's easy to update the software, and but the problem is convincing the miners that they have
Right,
to
that it's a
throw
good
away
idea.
the hardware.
Yes,
They will no longer compatible with the hardware they invested in millions.
that's right.
So in the blockchain, so that encrypted number is both on the client side, so it'd be in my app, in my wallet, right? The top of the private. See, there's the public key and there's the private key.
Right.
And they're both encrypted, right?
Well,
Sorry,
the public key is known. That's like
It's
your
known.
user account, but your key is on your phone, and that's not known. And what we're saying is that quantum computing could determine what your private key is, and then thus spend your bitcoins. Basically, determine what your private key is, and
So every person that's out there would need, sounds like they need to upgrade to the
They would
layer
need to move-
encryption form and do that as soon as the word gets out.
yeah,
As a supercomputer
But it would-
or it's about to be out.
Right.
Or they could start the upgrade now, right?
But we don't have a point. But that's actually not, and then what you're saying is that that's actually not the real bottleneck. I mean, it's a real problem that all the exchanges or like online services have to change their encryption pattern. So that's probably not the biggest problem. The biggest problem is the SHA with the miners, because all the miner infrastructure, if that has to change, then all the ASICs that they're using, the actual hardware has to change.
And they don't have a choice. They have to change, otherwise it's zero. So.
right. But there's a lot of
creates
moving
a total
parts.
different economy. It's like suddenly.
It's the same.
So the encryption is in the hardware. It's being dealt with at a hardware level, not a software.
That's not the encryption. That's the proof of work.
I mean, they'd have to change their hardware if they upgrade. So this is why there's all the moving parts.
I don't think that the miners proof of work has anything to do with encryption anyway, or that I don't think that they would have to change the miners hardware or change the proof of work algorithm if we move to a different type of cryptography. I did not prepare for this conversation, so maybe I'm